All right, we installed our system and have done some other stuff, but so far we have been working as root and logging in directly as root. And there's some issues with this. The number one issue is everybody has to know the root password. And when people log in directly as root, you kind of lose accountability for who's doing what. So, like right now, I logged in as root. We could have 3 different users logged in as root from different places. And if somebody breaks something, it's kind of hard to track down who it was that broke it. And not necessarily that you're looking to punish them, but you need to figure out why things are broken so you can fix them. So logging in as root is generally frowned upon. So what we're going to do is we're going to use the user we created at install time to do things. So we're going to log in directly as that user. But now the problem is once we log in as that user, we don't have administrative access. So how do we go about gaining administrative access once we're logged in as a user? Well, one way we can do it, we can use the switch user command. If you throw the dash on there, that will pick up root's environment. So we can use the switch user command to become root. Same problem here, I need to type root's password. Why don't I want to do it this way? Well, I have to type root's password. Anytime somebody leaves the company, gets fired every 3 months just for fun, we need to change the root password. So it's just generally frowned upon to have everybody using root directly when there are other ways you can do it. So at this point, I used SU to switch users. One of the quiz questions asks you where SU attempts are logged, and they go into var log secure. So you'll need that for the quiz. See, it tells me, oh hey, RBE 1111 open the user root using switch user command. So that does give us accountability for who's using root now. I know which user did it, but still same issue if I have 6 different people using root. Actually, that's not the issue. The issue is we have to know the root password. We don't want everybody to know the root password. So there is now a command, Sudo, that lets us run commands with elevated privileges. Some people call this Sudo, but I think of it as switch user and do something, so I've always said Sudo. So basically the way Sudo works is you give it, you type Sudo and then you type the command you want to run. So say we wanted to restart the firewall. So this command would, well, first off, let me try to do it without doing sudo. If I don't specify sudo, it says, hey, you need to be root to do that, and it asks me for root's password, which again, I could put root's password in here, and it will work. But again, we don't want everybody to have root's password, so we don't want to do it that way. If we type sudo and the command, it will try to use sudo to run that command. It asks for my password, so this is the user password, and then sudo would try to run the command. In this case, we have not configured sudo yet, so it is not going to work. So that's what we're going to do right now. We're going to make it so that sudo will work for this user. So first thing we're going to do is we are going to use switch user to become root, because the things we need to do need to have root privileges. So type in the root password. So a couple things we need to do to make our user be allowed to use sudo. The number one thing we need to do is modify our user to put them in the wheel group, and we can do that using the user mod command. So this says user mod, I want to append this group, I want to add it to the groups list, I want to add it to the wheel group, and then I'm going to put the user ID. So now if I run the ID command to look at my user, I see that my user is now in my group and the wheel group. So now my user should be able to use sudo. So let's try this command again, put in my user password. Oh, it still says I'm not in the sudoers file. Well, the problem is my user only picks up its groups when I log in. So since I changed the groups while I was already logged in, I need to log out and then log back in. Log out and log back in, and now now I'm in the wheel group. So now if I use that, run that sudo command, it's going to ask me for my password. I'm going to put my password, and it should run the command for me. So there, we use sudo to run the command. It asked me for my password. There is a config file. Well, let me go back just a second. If you want to become, so a best practice is to use sudo in this manner so that you only use elevated privileges whenever you need it to. I personally find that to be very annoying because the majority of the time I need to do things as root. Almost everything I want to do as an administrator needs to be done with root access. So I almost always use sudo in a manner that will give me a root shell. So if you type sudo-i or sudo-s, that will give you a shell as root. The -i will pick up root's environment. The -s does not pick up root's environment, so I almost always use -i. So now I'm running as root. You may be like, hey, Rich, it didn't ask you for your password. That's weird. That is weird. And the reason it didn't ask me for my password is because I had authenticated recently. So for some length of time, it keeps track of the fact that you have asked for it, that it has asked for your password. So I'm going to log back out again and log in again to clear out that password, hopefully. So now, hopefully, if I use sudo, it's going to ask me for my password again. So yes, so see, it asked me for my password again. So we're going to actually get rid of that behavior. I find that to be somewhat annoying. So there is a config file that has the sudo information stored in it, etc sudoers. So there's a line down here for the wheel group. So I'm going to type a slash and type wheel, and that's going to search for wheel. So we have these two lines for the wheel group. This line lets people in the wheel group run all commands. So if you recall, we modified my user to be in the wheel group. This next line has it run all commands without asking for a password. We're going to make that change because I get super annoyed having to type my password in all the time. So we're going to make that change. If you notice, when I started making the change, it said this is a read-only file. Let me go do that again. Look down at the bottom left when I start making this change. The bottom left of this window, it's going to say, warning, changing a read-only file. So I'm root right now, so I don't care that it said that. So what I'm going to do is now if I try to save the file, it's going to say, sorry, you can't do that. So I'm going to put an exclamation point on there. You should remember that from your Vim tutor days. So now I have saved the file. So now if I go all the way back out and log back in, now when I run sudo, it should not ask me for my password. So there you go. So that's what we needed to do for this part of this video. We needed to make it so that our regular user can use sudo to become root, because one of the next things we're going to do is disable root direct login. So to summarize, we don't want to have everybody know the root password. We don't want root logging in directly, so we need to configure sudo so each individual user can become root without knowing root's password. And now we're going to move forward with disabling direct root login in the next video.